That lawn chair in your backyard may be labeled made in Vietnam, but the capital, know-how, and materials likely came from China. So, if President Trump's tariffs were designed to break U.S. dependence on Beijing, why are Chinese goods still entering America just by taking a different route? When President Donald Trump announced a new round of sweeping tariffs in July 2025, most headlines focused on the European Union, Canada, and Mexico, America's traditional trading partners. The European Union now faces potential blanket tariffs of up to 30% and has readied countermeasures worth more than 72 billion euros, about $84 billion. Meanwhile, Vietnam appears to have dodged the hardest blow. Most of its exports to the U.S. are currently subject to a 20% tariff, and select goods suspected of Chinese origin face 40%. But this temporary advantage conceals a deeper challenge: an unprecedented influx of Chinese factories into Vietnam, eager to avoid U.S. tariffs, is putting the country in a precarious economic and strategic position. At a furniture factory in Nguyen, Vietnam, owned by Letright Industrial, a major supplier to Walmart and Lowe's, more than 1,200 Vietnamese workers toil in humid and air-conditioned workshops to craft outdoor furniture, retailing in the U.S. for $700 to $2,000 per set. Factory owner Renli, a Chinese national, recently gave his workers a 45% raise, not out of generosity, but to compete with the flood of new Chinese factories setting up shop nearby. "They just flood in like a tsunami," Li said. In the first half of 2025, over 800 new Chinese and Hong Kong investment projects were launched in Vietnam, mainly in manufacturing. On paper, it looks like an economic windfall. But in strategic terms, Vietnam is risking long-term dependency on Chinese industrial dominance. According to Le Hong Heap, a senior fellow at the Aziz Yusof Ishak Institute, Chinese investors bring capital, technology, and operational efficiency. Vietnam supplies land, labor, and tax incentives. In short, China may be relocating its factories, but it's not giving up control of the supply chain. Roughly 70% of materials at Letright's Nguyen facility are locally sourced. The remaining 30%, including metals and upholstery, still come from China. When ports are congested, trucks haul supplies across the border in just 5 hours. The result, a Vietnamese product may still have a Chinese DNA. The Trump administration has repeatedly warned Southeast Asian nations, Vietnam included, to crack down on transshipment, relabeling Chinese goods to bypass tariffs. Yet there is still no clear legal boundary between legitimate production shifts and opportunistic rerouting. A senior executive who oversees North American sales for Letright says the company is moving nearly 100% of U.S.-bound production from China to Vietnam. Still, he admits that it's 10 to 15% more expensive to manufacture in Vietnam due to lower labor productivity, weaker infrastructure, and the harsh tropical climate that saps worker energy. Vietnam currently enjoys a strategic advantage, but it's a narrow window. Without strict oversight of foreign investment, better enforcement of rules of origin, and stronger domestic manufacturing, Vietnam risks becoming a passive platform in someone else's game, not a true strategic partner. To its credit, the Vietnamese government has stepped up. It has committed to enhanced tracking of supply chains, offered zero-tariff market access for certain U.S. products, and, in return, secured a reduced tariff of 20%, down from the proposed 46%. Still, in the long term, true economic sovereignty means controlling your own supply chains, not just hosting someone else's factory. That patio chair labeled "Made in Vietnam" in a Chicago suburb might look like a trade win for decoupling from China, but peel back the layers and the picture gets murky. This isn't just about furniture, it's a strategic test for Vietnam's economic identity in a world where geopolitics and supply chains are increasingly inseparable. If Vietnam wants to shape its own future, it must do more than receive the wave. It must learn to steer it.